Esa negrita que va caminando, esa negrita tiene su tumbao. Y cuando la gente la va mirando, ella baila de lado, también apretado, apretado, apretado.
La negra tiene tumbao
Azúcar, azúcar.
y no camina de lado.
Si quieres llegar derecho, mejor camina de frente. Para que no haya...
My name is Elisa Allen. I'm 21 years old. I'm Dominican and African American. My mother is Dominican and my father is African American. I'm doing this documentary on being Afro Latina because I really want to show pride and embrace the culture, and I just want to bring awareness on it. You know, I think for me individually growing up, I never even had someone to even tell me what Afro Latina was until I took a gender race course in college. That's kind of where I learned on what Afro Latina is, who they are, what they represent.
I wouldn't know how to identify it, to be completely honest with you. Like I wouldn't know how to put it into terms. But when I hear like Afro Latina, I don't know if it's just because I'm like super prideful of where I'm from. I automatically think of culture, pride. And then when I think of Latina, I just think about like family, I think about color, like happiness, like togetherness, united. Like I guess because my family's so close. I don't know. I guess everybody identifies differently.
I feel like I don't know when I say like I don't know what Afro Latina is, I don't know the definition of it.
Okay.
I don't want to sound stupid because I'm not.
No.
No, I'm not. But like I don't know how to like. When I like to talk about myself, I like to talk about I know what I'm talking about. So when you ask me what's Afro Latina, I'm like I don't know what that is. But I like to say that I'm black because it's just like I grew up such on a black culture. Like I grew up in Harlem on 143rd and Broadway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I grew up coming from like Harlem into the Bronx. So it's like I learned more about a black culture than a Spanish culture. Like
And being educated, I think that's the main key, is having the knowledge and really understanding, even if you don't say I'm Afro-Latina, but understand that you still have African roots in you, and you think of, if you go all the way back to like slavery, or how you're even taught on what slavery is and where it was and how it occurred, you're getting false information from like the education system, which is so like mind-blowing to me. You know, I didn't learn about the slave trade, the accurate slave trade I should say, until probably my senior year in high school. And that's when I really understood, like, damn, like they really came through the Dominican Republic and Cuba and all these Caribbean countries and took them along with people from the coast of Africa to bring to the colonies and make, as you know, this whole system of slavery. But what we're taught in the education system is slavery, Africans going through to the colonies, boom, that's it. So
slavery, in schools, slavery was always taught like African Americans.
To be like really honest, thank God, like when I was in like elementary school, junior high, I learned more about like US stuff. They never really spoke about anything. Like if they ever even mentioned Cuba, they just talked about how Cuba was bad and they had a dictatorship and da-da-da-da. Like they wouldn't go into deep of the culture, and I think Cuban culture is a beautiful culture. But you would never know because they don't talk about stuff like that. And then when I was in high school, when I took AP Spanish, I actually did have a teacher who talked to me about Trujillo. And if you're Dominican, you know who that is.
yes.
And she talked more about the culture, but it's usually a Spanish teacher that will go into that. Like when I took sociology in college, my sociology teacher was Dominican, and she talked to us about where we come from. And that's when I learned that my ancestry is black. Like that's when I learned what Afro Latina is. I never identified as that before. Like if someone said, hey, you're black, you're African American, that's your ancestry, I was like, what? No, I'm Spanish, I'm Latina. And I would get offended. But when you start like really looking into your background and really like doing your research and learning, like you learn a lot, and you get surprised about the things you learn. Like it just makes you more prideful. I mean, I'm very open to learning new things, and not everybody is. A lot of people are closed-minded, and but I feel like we should all be educated, especially in school.
That like was definitely missed in high school, but at the same sense like learn later in college. But that's kind of sad because you should teach your kids young. Like you always try to go for the goal is to teach your children young so that they can later reflect on life. And that's, I don't know how I can explain it, but it's kind of like sad in a sense.
Let's talk about something. There is so much racism in the Latin community that is insane. Like I guess when I was younger, I used to be part of that, and I'm very open with that.
I was raised basically like when my mom's been here for a minute. Like she's been here since like the 80s, the 90s. So like, you know, back in the day, like you're coming from somewhere else, is like you're in someone else's territory. So my mom was always be like, oh, like the negros, they're not good. Like she always raised me saying like black people were no good and they always did some harm. But like me being raised in Harlem and being raised in the Bronx was like, I have my own perspective where it's like, all right, that's how you felt because you're coming from DR, but like I was born here. I made friends, I made like family, so it's like they're not as bad as you seem. So like me growing up here, I always had to tell her like, yo, like don't be dumb, don't be talking like shit about these black people, because little do you know they probably understand everything you're saying about them.
Then it's worse when someone calls me a gringa or calls me white, or I've gotten asked if I'm Albanian because my name is Alba and because I'm white. Like how ignorant is that?
Yeah.
But whatever, like I guess people grow up differently. I mean, my mom has never taught me to assume because someone is a darker complexion or a whiter complexion that you're automatically something. Like, I'll quickly ask you, hey, where are you from? You have an accent. Or I've had a lot of personal experiences myself, and then I've seen a lot. I think I've seen more than I've witnessed myself, but a lot of people, since I'm lighter, and like compared to how Dominicans are usually like really tan or dark, and I'm like white and I have green eyes and my hair was blonde when I was little. People tell me that I'm a gringa or I'm white, or since I moved to New York, I'm white and that's where I'm from. And I wouldn't get respected as being Dominican, but I was born in DR. Like that's where my family's from, my entire family's from there. I was born there, that's where I lived half of my life.
My dad, I say my dad's a black Dominican. So it's like, you know how like Haiti and like DR is so close to each other? Like my grandma is a fair, dark-skinned woman. So like my dad's a little darker than my mom. My mom's really white.
For a fact that Colombians are technically considered regular, like white, blue eyes, blonde hair looking Americans, but there are some dark-skinned like Colombians. Like they're as black as they can come, I guess, in a sense, if I could say.
So I always say like my mom and my grandma, my dad, like they're like the black side.
Saying if you're more fair-skinned that you don't, or you aren't Afro Latina, because that's a really, 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 really big misconception. I have a cousin, and we're black and white, yin yang, like opposite, total opposite. Like she's fair-skinned, you poke her, she bruises so easily. Really like brunette hair, dark, black. I've got curly hair. She has curly hair too. But people would believe that we're related, that we're blood cousins. My first blood cousin, my little cousin, you know? It's kind of frustrating. So she's not too aware of being Afro Latina. Like, you know, we're both like, oh, those black people. I'm like, you are black too. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, and or she would be like, oh yeah, my cousin's half Dominican, half black. Like, so are you, you know? Like, I mean, you have African blood within you, and I think that's something that we're just not educated on. And I don't like ridicule her or bash her because she's not educated. I just try to tell her and teach her.
I'm quick to ask because I used to get offended when people used to assume. But when people call me gringa, like that makes me cringe inside.
Look black. Your hair's really pretty, you have really soft hair, your hair's so curly, but you don't really look Spanish either because you're a little bit more darker and your butt is not that big, but it's just like, I didn't know I had to look this or that to fit in with this or that, but that's the society that we live in, unfortunately. And it was becoming like really fed up. Like I just got annoyed with it, and I got annoyed with kind of like having to choose. Like
my mom and my aunt and my grandma, they're all old school. I'm very proud for where I come from. I'm very proud to be Spanish. I'm very proud to be Latino, Dominican, and everything like that. But at the same time, like I said, I grew up on a black culture, so I would embrace what I learned and what I took, like what I've taken in, learning that, yeah, like I have friends that go through the same struggle and same things my family has. So that's why I'm like, I say I'm black because we're going through the same thing. We're in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just embrace what they go through and like.
I feel like I kind of have to adjust of like which way I have to act, which way I have to speak, how I have to speak, how I have to dress, what I have to eat, what kind of music I have to listen to, and it's just like, it's so annoying. I think that's just my personal issue because I'm both, but it's just like, it starts from the root of understanding that if you're Latina, you still have the blood of being African. So it's just like, why is there so much distinguishes that separate the two? And yes, I understand the cultures are different, and you're from a Spanish-speaking country, and you probably eat food that are different, the music is different, but it's just like, even within that culture, within the Latin culture, there's racism.
Yeah, my grandma used to hate my mom. She was like, y eso,
Wait,
y ese moño.
It's not even racist, but it's more like derogatory terms. That's how I consider it. If you have too much of a coarse hair, it's called a pajon, and it's you're not really embraced to be pretty, or you get told to put perms in your hair, or to relax it, or to straighten all the time.
But yeah, like, it's just things where I just grew up and I'm like, yo, like, I used to, I hated doing my hair. I would go with my hair to school like 3 days ago. So I did my hair 3 days ago. You'll see me 3 days with the same hairstyle because I used to hate doing my hair. So like,
for me, I never really went through that where I felt someone told me I had to change my hair because I wasn't pretty. It was just a personal preference. I always wanted my hair straight, and I felt more pretty with my hair straight.
I like my hair now. Like, I wake up, I put in a pineapple or shake it off, and I leave to work. And I'll do like 4 different hairstyles throughout the day, and it still ends like this.
But it was never a sense where like a family member, my parents, or I think the most they would say was like, oh, brush your mop, which is just like what I think any mom does with their child. You know, you have a mop in your head, your hair's so tangled, like, you know, in that essence, but not in the sense where it's like they made me feel less pretty because of that. But I know there are people, especially I'm Dominican, so if you know about Dominicans, we know how to do hair. We're really good at doing hair, but I think it's what they're really good at is burning your pride and straightening your roots and all the culture that shows with your hair, and that people see. That's the person they see.
Ese pajón, coño.
I really learned to appreciate the type of hair that I have, and you guys are probably thinking like it's just hair. It's just hair, but it's a huge factor, especially for women within the Afro Latina community, where we embrace it because throughout generations and generations we're told we're not beautiful enough because of it.
Afro Latina, camina conmigo, salsa swagger anywhere she go, como la negra tiene tumbao azúcar. Dance to the rhythm, beat the drums of my skin. Afro descendant, the rhythms within. The first language I spoke was Spanish. Learn from lullabies whispered in my ear. My parents' tongue was a gift which I quickly forgot after realizing my peers did not understand it. They did not understand me. So I rejected habichuela and mango, much preferring Happy Meals and Big Macs, straightening my hair in imitation of Barbie. I was embarrassed by my grandmother's colorful skirts and my mother's broki ingli, which cracked my pride when she spoke. So shit, I would poke fun at her myself, hoping to lessen the humiliation. Proud to call myself American, a citizen of this nation. I hated caramel colored skin. Curse God, I'd been born the color of cinnamon, how quickly we forget where we come from. So remind me that I come from the Taínos of the Rio, the Aztec, the Mayan, los Incas, los Españoles con sus fincas buscando oro, and the Yoruba Africanos que con sus manos built a mundo nunca imaginado. I know I come from stolen gold, from cocoa, from sugarcane, the children of slaves and slave masters, a beautifully tragic mixture, a sancocho of erased history, and my memory can't seem to escape the thought of lost lives and indigenous rape. a bittersweet bitterness, a feeling innate, the soul of a people past, present, and fate. Our stories cannot be checked into boxes. They are in the forgotten, the undocumented, the passed down spoonfuls of arroz con dulce at abuela's knee. They're the way our hips skip to the beat of cumbia, merengue, y salsa. They're in the bending and blending of backbones. We are deformed and reformed beings. It's in the sway of our song, the landscapes of our skirts, the azúcar beneath our tongues. We are the unforeseen children. We're not a cultural wedlock. Hair too kinky for Spain and too wavy for dreadlocks. So our palms tell the cuentos of many tierras. Read our lifeline, birth of intertwined moonbeams and starshine. We are every ocean crossed. North Star navigates our waters. Our bodies have been bridges. We are the sons and daughters. El destino de mi gente. Black, brown, beautiful. Viviremos para siempre. Afro Latinos hasta la muerte.
Mi nombre es Alisa Allen y yo soy Afro Latina.